Hello and welcome to this tutorial for users of Microsoft Word 2016 for the Mac. In this tutorial we're going to look at creating and editing tables in Microsoft Word. And to begin, I have a document here that you may have seen before, my staff rota, and instead of having a list of days and names, I would like all this information displayed in a table format. And the first thing I'm going to do is just set the start point for my table. So I'm already at the beginning of the first line there where Monday is. You can see the cursor flashing away. And if I just press the Enter key a couple of times and then press the up arrow key again, that is where my table will be inserted. And I'd like to have my table have one column for each day of the week. And I have 6 days here, Monday through to Saturday. And I'd like one row for each member of staff. I'll need an additional column for my staff names and an additional row for my days of the week. So to create the table, I come up to the toolbar and click on the Insert tab, and you'll see on the left hand side there the table section. And if I click on the drop down arrow there, you'll see first of all I've got this large grid where I can create my table. So I need to first of all count down, and as I move the mouse down you'll see that indicator above indicating 1 by 2, 1 by 3, etc. So at the moment it's counting up the rows, and as you know I need 6 rows, so there I am on 6, and then move across and I need 7 columns. So I simply move across until that label reads 7 by 6 table, and then I simply click on that bottom right square and you will see instantly that table is inserted into the document. The cursor is already flashing in the top left cell, ready for me to enter some data. But first of all, I'm going to move to the second cell by pressing the Tab key. And now I'm going to enter my days of the week. And I'll enter the abbreviated versions of the days. So I'll type MON for Monday, tab across to the next cell again, type in TUES for Tuesday, tab across again, WEDS for Wednesday, tab across again, and tab across finally, and SAT for Saturday. So I've come to the end of the first row and I'd like to move to row 2. So all I need to do is simply press the Tab key again, and you'll see there the cursor flashing at the beginning of row 2. And what I'm going to do now is enter my staff names. First name is Fred, and of course now I need to move down to the next cell, and I'm going to press the down arrow key to do that. The next name is Tom. Again, press the down arrow key to move to the next cell. Jane is my next member of staff. Again, press the down arrow. Lisa is the next name. Press the down arrow again. And finally, type in Harry. So in terms of table navigation, the keys that you need to be aware of are first of all the arrow keys. So that's a nice easy way to navigate around. You can also use the Tab key as you've seen. So I can press the Tab key repeatedly to move right, and as the cursor comes to the end of the row, pressing the Tab key again will move to the beginning of the next row, and so on. You can also use the keyboard shortcut Shift and Tab, and if I hold the Shift key down and then press the Tab key, you will see that the cursor reverses and goes back cell by cell towards the top of the table. So Tab to move forwards, Shift and Tab to move back. Those are the basics in terms of navigating with the keyboard. But of course you can also use the mouse to simply click in whichever cell you want to work in. And so let's go through and add the data then to indicate who is going to be working on which day. And you can see from my initial list that Fred, Tom and Jane are working on Monday. So I'm going to type in very simply the word yes in there for Fred working on Monday. Press the down arrow key, type in yes for Tom, down arrow key again, and yes for Jane. By the way, it's tempting to press the Enter key when you've typed a piece of text. So if I typed in yes and then instinctively perhaps press the Enter key, you'll see all that happens is I get a new line within the cell. And I'll just press the back delete key there to remove that. So keep in mind that when you've typed in your entry for the cell, you don't really need to do anything to confirm the entry. If you need to move to another cell, either press an arrow key or use the Tab key as you've seen already. So coming to Tuesday then, you can see we have Tom, Lisa and Harry, and rather than repeatedly type the word yes, I'm going to use copy and paste here to complete the table. And there's a couple of ways I can do that. If I double click on the word yes next to Tom there, and hold down on the keyboard the Alt key, and then put the mouse pointer over the selected word and drag. You'll see I get a symbol there indicating I'm going to be making a copy. The plus symbol is the giveaway, and if I now release the mouse button and then release the key on the keyboard, I've copied that word from Monday to Tuesday. Of course, you can also use the keyboard shortcut to copy, so with that word selected there on Tuesday, I can type Control and C for copy. Let's go through the rest of Tuesday then, so I can see that Lisa and Harry are my other employees on that day. So simply click into the cell there, Tuesday for Lisa, press Control and V, come down to Harry, Control and V again. So I'll go through and complete the rest of my days, and you'll come back when the table is completed. And there we have the completed table. Now, if you ever need to move a piece of data from one cell to the other, again, that's quite a simple process. It's simply a case of selecting and use the mouse to drag. And in this case, what I like to do is swap Jane for Lisa on Monday. So all I need to do here is double click to select the entry there next to Jane, and then simply drag that selection down to the next row. And there I've swapped Jane for Lisa on Monday. If I undo that with Control and Z, you can also, of course, use the traditional keyboard shortcut Control X for cut. I'll just use the arrow key to move down to the next row, and Control V to paste. As well as copying and moving content within a table, you can do the same thing for the entire table. Now, first of all, I'm going to deselect the table by just clicking away. And then first of all, I'm going to click back on the table, but as I move the mouse pointer over the table, keep an eye on the top left corner, and you'll see there a small box appear. And if I put the mouse pointer over that and then click, that will select the entire table. I can then do the same thing with cut and paste by typing Control X on the keyboard, or you can use the buttons on the Home tab, or right click and choose Cut from the shortcut menu, whichever option you prefer. I'll just tidy up the top of the document by deleting those blank lines. I'm going to type Alt and End to move to the end of the document, create a blank line between the final line there with my staff list and where the table is due to go. And again, I'll use the keyboard shortcut Control and V. And there I've moved the table from the top of the document to the end of the document. So as you see there, moving a table is a relatively simple process, and it's no different to cutting and pasting a piece of text. Now I'm just going to undo that move there, so I'm going to type Control and Z until we get the table back at the top, like so. And I'll just press any arrow key to deselect the existing table selection. And what I'm going to do is show you how to delete content within a table. So I'll give you a few examples. If I want to delete my days of the week, for example, I can select the entire row by putting the mouse pointer to the left of that row, click to select, and it's a simple matter of pressing delete on the keyboard. Again, I'm just going to undo that, Control and Z to undo. If you want to delete a column of entries, you simply put the mouse pointer above the column that you want to delete, and you'll see there as I move the mouse pointer, it can be quite sensitive, so it's a bit of trial and error, but when you see the downward pointing arrow, click to select the column, and again press the delete key. You'll notice that simply pressing the delete key doesn't delete the column, only the data within the column. Again, I'll just type Control Z to undo and bring that data back. And if you want to delete a range of cells within the table, you can achieve that by clicking and dragging. So if I want to delete all my existing entries, I'd move the cursor at the beginning of the first entry, get the I-beam pointer, click and then drag all the way down to the bottom right, select those cells, and again simply press the delete key on the keyboard. Again, I'll just type the undo keyboard shortcut to bring that back. There is another mouse pointer, and if I put the mouse pointer again to the left of the initial word there in that cell in row 2, column 2, you'll see I get a black inward pointing arrow, and if I click now, the cell is selected. So if I had a multiple word entry in that cell, I can now press the delete key and delete any content within that cell. Again, I'll just undo that to return the entry. Now let's say that sales on Thursday aren't particularly good and Fred decides to close on that day to give his staff a day off. So to delete Thursday, come across with the mouse, again put the mouse pointer above that column, get the downward pointing arrow, click to select. And on the toolbar you'll notice that whenever you're entering data or working within a table, you'll have two new tabs. One of those is table design, we'll look at that in the next tutorial, and the other one we'll look at here is layout. So if I click on the layout tab, what you'll see over on the left is a delete button, and if I click on the drop down arrow there, you'll see we have options for deleting cells, deleting columns, deleting rows, and deleting the table. Well, we're interested here of course in deleting columns, so if I click on that, the selected column is removed. And the same applies to rows, so if Harry decides to resign from the company, I can select the row that features Harry, come back to that layout tab again, come to the delete button, click the drop down and click on delete row. And there's my modified table with one less day of the week and one less member of staff. Here we have another document, and I'm going to create another table here to help me plan my film screenings. So again, just at the end of that first line, press the enter key a couple of times, and again go to the insert tab, click on the table drop down arrow, go to the insert table option below the grid and click on that option there, and I get a dialog box here which allows me to put in a specific number of rows and columns, and also choose some auto fit behavior below, as you can see. So first of all, I'll choose my numbers for rows and columns, and I can either type in the number, which is going to be 4, or I can use these dial buttons on the right to specify the number by clicking the appropriate up or down arrow. So 4 is set for columns, 3 is set for rows, which is fine for my initial needs. And below I'm going to leave the initial column width set to auto. You can specify, again if I just click the up arrow there on the dial button, you can specify a particular width for your columns. So I'll leave that set on auto and just click OK. And again there's the table on the document. I'll go ahead and add my initial column heading names here. And there are my column headings, and I'm going to now type in the first movie title, which will be Gone with the Wind. And you notice there that the word wind, because the column isn't wide enough for the entry, has automatically wrapped around onto a second line. In some circumstances it doesn't matter, but keep in mind that as you enter information into these cells in the table, if you're entering large amounts of text, then you may have differing row heights because of the amount of text within the cell. However, in short entries, I can extend the column width to make sure they all fit on a single line. There's a few ways of doing that. If I come up to the layout tab, my two table tab options at the top there, and you'll see there I have width in the cell size section, and I can use this dial button here to simply click the up arrow, and straight away you'll see that the column is now wide enough. But if I dial that back until the column isn't wide enough, another way of fixing the column width is to put the mouse pointer on the right hand side of the cell on the dividing line, and you'll see there I get a two-way arrow. When I see that two-way arrow, I will then double click, and double clicking automatically fits the content, as you can see. Now you recall earlier when I created this table there were other options in that auto fit section, and if I just type Alt and End to go out of the table and come to the end of the document, press the enter key to add a blank line, and now if I come back to the insert tab and go to the table drop down, again come to the insert table option there to get the dialog box. I'll leave it set at 3 by 3 this time, but I'm going to set auto fit to contents as my auto fit behavior. If I now click OK, you'll see a slightly more unusual table. It's completely compressed to its minimum size, but as I add the entries, so if I tab to the next cell and let's say type in the word north, you'll see that column width grows as I type in the entries. And if I just tab through to the first title, and as I type in Gone with the Wind, you'll see this time the cell automatically expands to accommodate the full width of the title. However, for now I'm going to delete this table, so again click the top left, that small box there that appears, click that to select, go to the layout tab, the table layout tab, come to the delete options, and this time select delete table. The table is removed. I'm going to enter some dates now for my screening, so I'll just click into that north column, for Gone with the Wind, and we'll type in there 15/4 for 15th of April. Tab across to south, type in there 17/5, tab across to west, and 16th of June is that screening date. If I tab again, we come to the next row, so I can type in a title here. I'm going to type in The Wizard of Oz. Tab across again, and we'll enter some more dates, so 20th of April for North, 28th of May for South, and the 23rd of June for West. Now I've come to the end of my table, and I've got another row of data to add here. To add a row at the end, I simply press the Tab key again. And when I do that, you'll see that Word automatically adds a new row for me to continue. So I'll just enter my movie title there and go through and add some dates for Casablanca. So that's worth keeping in mind, that as you add data to your table, Word will automatically expand by adding rows whenever you come to the end of a previous row. So again, I'll just go through and just complete the remaining entries here, like so. I'd like to add another title here, but I want it to appear above Casablanca. And all I need to do first of all here is just check that I'm clicked anywhere at all in the row below where I want the new one to appear. So I'm clicked already, as you can see, in the final cell there on the 4th row. So if I go back to the Layout tab, and this time come across to this Rows and Columns section, and you'll see that I have Insert Left, Insert Right, Insert Below, and finally the one I want, Insert Above. And if I click on that button, it inserts a new row above Casablanca, and I can now type in my new movie, which will be High Noon. Inserting a column is a little bit more tricky because you obviously have to account for the width of your entries in existing columns. But what I'm going to do here is click anywhere at all in the final column there, and I'd like to add a column to the left of this one. So again, back on the Layout tab, come to the Insert Left button there in the Rows and Columns section, and if I click on that, you'll see a column is indeed inserted to the left of the existing West column. And you can see that the new column is causing problems across the whole table, and now the table is too wide for the page. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is put the mouse pointer above the North column, and then I'm going to click and drag across to select all 4 columns. I'm then going to come back to the Layout tab, and in the Cell Size section, I'm going to just click the down arrow on the width to reduce the width of all 4 selected columns until they fit on the page. And when I'm happy with the width, I can simply click away to deselect. And you can also see where the margins are set on the page, and you can see the table clearly falls within those margins. And of course, you can also do the same thing with row heights. So if you'd like to give your text entries a bit more breathing room in terms of height, you can select, in this case, all 5 rows. And this time, of course, we're concerned with height. So if I click the up arrow, you will see there the height of the rows increasing. And to position the text better within those wider rows, I would come across to the alignment section, and within that section you'll see there a number of buttons to allow me to align the text. If I click on the first option in the second row, so at the moment everything is centered vertically and left aligned, but what if I would like my columns from north across to west and the data to be centered horizontally and vertically? I would click and drag from the first cell to the last, and then I can click that middle button there and change the formatting just for those cells. And again, finally click away to see the results, and I might even come back and complete my table. And there's my completed screening planner. So that completes this first look at creating and editing tables in Microsoft Word. I hope you found some things there that are useful and you can apply to the documents that you're working on. But in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.